Eligbolo, Sam, Oracle, Chinedu here. And our conversation for this hour borders on religion, I said earlier, because the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, has threatened to embark on a nationwide protest if the governors of Bauchi, Katsina, Kano, and Kebbi states do not reverse their decision to close down schools for 5 weeks for the Ramadan fast within 72 hours. NANS, in a statement on Monday by its National Public Relations Officer, Samson Adeyemi, described the closure as an infringement on the right of every student to uninterrupted education. Adeyemi stressed that the policy will threaten academic progress and discriminate against non-Muslim students. He stressed that such a move would set a bad precedent in the Nigerian education sector. Now, as you can tell, there's a whole lot more to that, but let me read a part of his statement. NANS stands firm in advocating for the right to education for all Nigerian students, regardless of their religious affiliations. Closing schools for an extended period during Ramadan undermines the academic progress of students, disrupts their learning, and unfairly targets non-Muslim students, subjecting them to undue discrimination. It goes on to say the policy is not just unjust, but also a blatant infringement of the rights of students. Now, there are many other groups that have shared the sentiment of NANS. They did not claim to go, they didn't threaten a protest, but they spoke against the closure of schools for the Ramadan season. And so, conversations like this naturally raise questions. My guest is an Islamic cleric. He is Imam Shaafiee Qaasim. He's Imam of AsSunnah Mosque, Eligbolo, right here in Port Harcourt. Welcome, Imam Shaafiee.
Thank you very much. And Assalamu alaikum.
Ramadan Kareem.
Indeed.
Okay, so straight to business. You've heard the story. Of course, I shared the headline with you earlier, and I'm sure you have thoughts. But before you share your position on this, I'd like to know, how do other countries with significant Muslim populations manage educational schedules during Ramadan, like, the Saudi Arabias of this world and some countries we call Muslim countries? How do they handle?
All right, thank you again for having me, and let me appreciate Night 2.3 again for always at least reaching out to Muslims to come and share their input from their religious perspective whenever matters that has to do with their faith is concerned, and not leaving it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry to comment upon. However, on this matter, I think none, they are very, very correct, almost 100%. The reason is that Muslims, like I think I've said before here on your station, Muslims, we are becoming more of a thorn on the side of the faith of Al-Islam, due to the fact that we venture into many things under a false pretense of loving the faith that are actually contrary to what the faith itself dictates, and then which ultimately gives the faith a bad name before the non-Muslims at large, whether locally or internationally.
Okay.
There is nothing in this faith that specifies or that dictates that during the month of Ramadan, Muslims should be, unquote, free or lazy or being laissez-faire. Nothing like that. In fact, Muslims are even enjoying to be more hardworking, to be more serious in the month of Ramadan. For example, many of the scholars of Islam, they have given out scathing statements to condemn Muslims who go around sleeping in the mosques during the afternoon of Ramadan on the pretense that they are tired from the weight of the fasting. So the time they are supposed to use constructively, both on the spiritual plane and the material plane, they are just sleeping around and doing things that are of no merit from any angle at all. You understand? So Islam does not say in the month of Ramadan declare public holiday. In the month of Ramadan, workers should be given, they should work half day or whatever. Islam has not said anything like that. Ramadan is not different from any other month, except that it is the best month of the year in Islam, the most blessed month, and because in it there is a night that is equal to 1,000 months. And to achieve that reward of 1,000 months, you must wake up on that night and engage in serious and rigorous activity.
Okay.
Are you following me? So there's nothing about Ramadan that calls for anybody going on a holiday or on a break. This is the truth of the matter from the faith. Most times, politicians in Nigeria always under the yoke of Islam try to put things that they think are sentimental, that they think Muslims will appreciate, but which are not part of the faith. Unfortunately, in doing so, they do not consider the effect on the non-Muslims, bearing in mind that Nigeria is not an Islamic state. There is the argument that Muslims are more in Nigeria, or someone that says non-Muslims are more. It doesn't matter who is more. Nigeria is not an Islamic state, and Islam does not allow believers to trample upon the right of others, particularly non-Muslims, because whatever you do in the name of Islam to non-Muslims will mirror back on Islam, and that will form their permanent opinion, usually negative, about Islam for a long time. And that the Muslims are still reeling from such effects from years, thousands of years back. So Islam has not directed that we should go on holiday. And truly, it is injustice to the non-Muslim students. And it does not make sense. You can't say the Muslim student go on holiday, the non-Muslim continue to go to school. What happened? The Muslim student will lag behind. And then they will become what? You understand? And when you now say a Christian who doesn't believe in your Ramadan, you can't force me to believe in it. Even you who is a Muslim, God has not commanded you to take a break in the month of Ramadan from learning. In fact, in Islam, we learn more in the month of Ramadan. That's why in many masajid, they do what is called tafsir, which is deep explanation of the meanings of the words of the Quran in Ramadan. Almost every masajid does it. So, on what ground, on what pretext are you asking people to be on holidays? Never mind. Like I said, politicians in Nigeria, they always try to hide behind Islam to achieve their own ends, and then in the process, they create more problems for Muslims.
Okay. Now, you started by saying that some things have been done to the image of Islam that, give it a bad name. What are some other examples of those things that, have been declared either by politicians that did not?
Okay. As I was coming, two came to my mind. As I'm talking now, I'm remembering one. I hope I remember the other one. The other one is the issue of Hajj. Government involvement in Hajj. Sponsoring Hajj. I understand.
That's pilgrimage.
What?
Pilgrimage.
Pilgrimage, yes.
Okay.
Pilgrimage. I think it was last year. Where they said the government spent $9 billion to subsidize Hajj. Who sent them? In actual fact, I'm telling you, in Islam, there are 5 pillars of Islam. 2 of them are contingent upon you having money. You don't have money, God Almighty excuses you. You will not be asked.
What are those 2?
Hajj, the pilgrimage, and zakat. That is paying the sometimes called the pure due. You that is greatly enriched, you give people who are less privileged. If you don't have money, and there's a limit, do you call it a limit? There is a threshold.
A threshold, okay.
That you have to have, which must stay with you for a year, a complete year. After you have taken care of your basic expenses, the money still reaches that amount, then you pay 2.5%. I have never paid zakat in my life. Am I guilty? I'm not guilty because God has not given me money that reaches that level to pay zakat. Hajj, as blessed as it is, if you go on a pilgrimage to Mecca, you come back like a newborn baby. That's your reward. You are sinless. You die like that, no obstacle between you and paradise. Yet, it is tied to money. In fact, the deen says if you don't have money, stay away. You don't have money, go away, go and stay away. Unless somebody sponsors you of his own money. Government is not supposed to be involved in Hajj, particularly the government of either a non-Muslim state or a multi-religious state like Nigeria. The money is supposed to be for the entire Commonwealth of Nigeria. Why are you using it? 9 billion on Muslims. You can't say I love Islam, I'm sentimental about Islam. Islam doesn't ask you to love it like that. To cut what belongs to so many and say I love Islam and spend it on Muslims is wrong. Even Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia, like Indonesia that has the largest Muslim population in the world, are you following me? They don't do such things. Talk less of a country like Nigeria, where unfortunately again, we have not given people good governance. If at all you have even given them good governance, everything is... People will not eyebrows now. If Nigerian is comfortable based on the resources God has given this country, nobody will raise an eyebrow. People are suffering. You are using 9 billion to send Muslims to go on a pilgrimage, leaving the non-Muslims. when that money is part of their own money. Unfortunately, again, the Muslims you send to Hajj are not even qualified to go to Hajj. So they go to Hajj and they mess everywhere up, give Islam a bad name again in Mecca. That's what many Muslims don't know. In Mecca, every country has places they give them. And they rate you every year, depending on your behavior that year. So if this year you are rated at, let's say, 50, and then you come to Hajj, you do many things that are not supposed to be done. You'll be downgraded to maybe 30, depending on what you do, to 10 or 5. So Muslims, they bring us down again. The second one has not come to. If I remember, I will mention it.
Okay, what has come to me is a commercial break. After that, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us. Point three Nigeria info. We have the headline news coming up shortly. I have a few comments on WhatsApp and Facebook. Annie Jr. Amaboruju says, Sam, your guest has made me have greater respect and understanding for Islam. It's perhaps one of the most intelligent explanations, but will other Muslims endorse such views, he says. And on WhatsApp, it says, kudos to your guest. I think we have truthful religious leaders like him who wouldn't have problems. Okay, Didia, Odimegu Sonny Didia from Omerelu. So in the 2 minutes we have before 5:30, Imam Shaafiee, you have to admit that physically and biologically speaking, a person who has not eaten is considered weaker because by design, there are nutrients we gain from food, right? So let's just talk about biology. If you've not eaten, people are considered to be slower than a person who has eaten. Now, using that, would that be a good excuse for a person who is not as active during Ramadan? Because the nutrients and the energy they could get from food is missing.
It is not. First and foremost, when the Almighty designed Ramadan as a month of fasting, He has knowledge of everything. He knows our composition. He knows our capability. And He has told us many times in the Quran that He has not asked us to do anything that is beyond our capability. Look at our own fasting is different from other fasting. We only skip a meal. We wake up around very early in the morning. We take a very light meal, what we call sahur, just before dawn. Then we don't take breakfast because that's supposed to substitute for breakfast. We don't take lunch. Immediately the sun sets, we break our fast. So that's skipping that one meal should not make you weak. After all, sometimes when you overeat, what happens? You become weak as well. So the Almighty, who knows everything, has factored all of this in the legislation He gave us. So a Muslim who truly understands will not use that one as an excuse and say, that's why let them give us holiday because I'm weak. He knows Ramadan does not make you weak to the point of not being able to function or being a valuable member to society.
Okay, so after the headline news, we get into the politics of the conversation. The fact that more than one governor declared this holiday during Ramadan. We also talk about where we find the balance between faith and public policy. Please stay with us.
Headline News, Nigeria Info on
92.3.
Headline News.
It's still Hard Facts 92.3 Nigeria Info. Sam Oracle Chinedu here. Now, conversation for this hour, as I said earlier, is on religion and the blend of politics and public policy. NANS threatens a protest over Ramadan school closure in northern states. And that association has threatened to embark on a nationwide protest if the governors of Bauchi, Katsina, Kano, and Kebbi do not reverse their decision to close down schools for 5 weeks for the Ramadan fast within 72 hours. Next is Imam Shaafiee. Qaasim is the Imam of AsSunnah Mosque in Eligbolo right here in Port Harcourt. And he shares his thoughts on this particular move by those state governments. But beyond NAN, some other groups are also seeing the decision. I think the Christian Association of Nigeria for about over 10 states also spoke on that. And I'm trying to get the name of the other association that joined as well. But they didn't say they were going to protest. They just spoke against it. Now, Imam, there are about 4 to 5 states here where the governors decided that schools should be on break. The fact that this was a unanimous decision on their part, it wasn't just one governor. If it was one who would say, oh, maybe he was just... But you have about 4 to 5 people saying within this time, there has to be a break. Does that to some extent validate the position or make us inquire, okay, maybe they have a point, the fact that there are many of them who think like this, and it's not just one person?
It does not at all. In Islam, governors or elected politicians do not validate or invalidate anything in Islam. Our faith, Islam, is a complete faith. It was completed at the head of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when he died over 1400 years ago, nobody could add or remove anything from Islam, and it will stand. It might stand in your own enclave because you have some political power, but it will never be accepted globally. Even in states or countries or whatever close to you, will not accept it because it's not part of the edicts of the faith. So the fact that 5 of them in the north decided to come up and do that, it doesn't validate nothing. It shows that, number one, they are ignorant. Those governors are ignorant. That's why they are making laws that have no basis in the deen. In the Quran is closed down schools because of Ramadan. Have you ever heard of it? But even in Nigeria. So this is a start. I pray it does not succeed so that it will not continue. Because when people start something that has no basis, that's even injurious to some members of society, and it's not challenged, it continues. They will add other ones another time. Is that clear? So the fact that they did it does not validate in Islam. It remains invalid. Let me quickly say this one. I don't support what NANS is doing, calling for a strike. In Islam, we don't do strike. Protest, strike or whatever you call it. Because when you do protest, you affect more than the people or the people you are actually trying to target. I'm talking from a side point of view now.
Okay.
That's why Khan just said, don't do it. And I hope it will have been nice if there had been reported that some scholars in the north have come up to say, you governors, don't do this. Kano State, Muslims are plenty there. It's part of a nation that is a I don't want to call it secular, a multi-religious state. So consider the needs of others as your religion has asked you to consider it. Exactly. And therefore, don't go on this holiday, because fasting does not require anyone to go. Why don't you ask workers to go on holiday too? Because they are fasting, because they are weak. There is no basis for it. But calling for a strike is going to do more damage. And some people, as we used to say in Nigeria, unquote, miscreants, as we used to say, will take advantage and then something else will happen. So I don't support the so-called strike or protest or what have you. They shouldn't do that.
Now you
but
say
those governors should have a rethink.
You say you don't support protests or these kinds of demonstrations to air displeasure. So let's say, for example, there is a policy that you do not support, maybe here in River State, something you consider anti-Islamic or that might affect your community negatively. How do you air your displeasure if you do not protest?
For every problem that man might come across in the world, or I know this behave act now because some don't like. That gives reason to non-Muslims that Islam doesn't relate to that problem. So you Muslim body like does not force anybody to do his will. He reserves judgment on that thing when we go back to him. I've created you. I've asked you to worship me willingly, but I've given you choice. If you use the choice well and you follow me, you obey me, I will treat you with the best I can imagine, eternally, when you come back to me. You do what you like, no problem. I will deal with you eternally as well when you come back to me. Make your choice, and then they say, as you make your bed, so shall you lie on it. Right? But most of these things that are political, but they try to give it a religious coloration, is because of a political agenda. I said on this station, long when they just opened this station, when Daniel Bread was here, when we were talking about Sharia law in many of the states in the north. Most of those governors who tried or they claimed to have implemented Sharia in the north, they did it for political gain. And that's why it didn't last. That's why it didn't work. And it was equally, what is the word? It was equally, I don't want to use subjective. It didn't cut across board. Because if you are implementing Sharia and you who is implementing it, you have violated it. It doesn't matter whether you are a governor, you will be what? Prosecuted while in office. There is no immunity for anybody in Islam if you are in power. No immunity. During the time of one of the greatest successor to the Prophet, Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab, he had a case with someone, a normal or unquote common citizen. He sued Umar to court. When Umar appeared in court, the judge declared that the court should rise for His Excellency, as you would say now. Umar said, stop that. And he reprimanded the judge and said, you have done this man the first injustice. If not anything else, he's going to have the mind that you are biased against him in my favor. And therefore, he will not trust the judgment. And that is not Islam. Umar was controlling 1/3 of the world at the time I'm talking. 1/3 of the world, if you know your history. That's what he did. So Islam doesn't say because you are a governor, you are a president, whatever you are not above the law. And in our faith, it has already completed everything. All we have to do is do what we call itabi'u. We tell Muslims, all of us, including myself, we tell all Muslims, itabi'u, follow what the text, the faith has declared. Wala tabtadi'u, don't innovate, don't start your own. Okay, the world has become this, why don't we do like this? There is nothing that will become in this world that Islam has not provided room for it to be handled and navigated.
Yeah, you say provisions have been made, but I was looking to an instance because I created a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
So there is a policy that doesn't favor you.
Sorry, I didn't address that. So what Islam has said should happen. Thank you. Is that we reach out to the leader who is bringing that law that is ultra-vires.
Okay.
That's why we are told in our faith that one of the greatest acts of courage you can do is to speak the truth to the tyrant. But understand though, that means in his presence, not going on newspaper, going on radio, going on television, going on social media. Governor, this has done this, he's condemned. Because that one will make the person to become more recalcitrant. Because you are condemning him outside, power will make him feel that I am a governor, you are a twat. So you make him more reluctant, probably even send what they call them, security agencies after you. So, but what about if you don't have the opportunity?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. You may not have access.
Yes. Then talk to your own immediate leader. For example, as a Muslim in your masjid, talk to your own Imam. He has more connection to more Imams. He talks to them. Maybe he gets to somebody that may be designated as the Imam of his state, who now talks to, unquote, somebody that's a big person of the Imam of what? The Federation. To get it to who? The head. You have done your own. If, for example, you are lowly and you spread like that, if the person did not tell the head of state or what have you, you have done your own duty. It's not on you, it's on that person. And even if the person does his own, he presents to the head does not do it. We don't revolt against leaders in Islam. It's a great offense to revolt against leaders. Our duty is to tell them your Lord who created you, who allow you to reach that position of power, this is what he has said. If he takes it, if he does not, that's why our friend told us finally, he said, Mora amin kumun karan, whoever among you sees something that's objectionable, something that is bad, is evil. If finally you get Yuru, let him change it with his hand, let him use force. That's not applicable to everybody. It's applicable to people who have power. A governor sees something happening in a place, or a local government chairman, or what else, a senator or a president. He has power. Is that clear? So that's an edict. That is this. This must not happen. Last week I was going to Waterlines. If you get to Waterlines, when you want to go to Ikoku, that place, there's so many people used to park and sell on the road. When I got there that day, everywhere was what? Was neat. Guess what happened? The River State government asked them to go and clean the place, at least for that day. And when there, many days after, they were back. That's where you see something that is wrong, you can change it to put your hand. That's power, because you have power. If you don't have power, the Prophet said, "Fa'in lam yastati." If you cannot change it, fabil lisani, speak against it.
Okay.
That's the one about the talking I'm talking about. He said, if you cannot, then detest it in your heart. He said, that is the weakest of faith, but it is faith. Detest it in your heart. But don't carry placard and destroy buildings, kill people, burn buildings, because you don't like what government is doing. Yeah.
All right, it's time for you to be a part of the conversation. NANS threatens a protest, and they're saying that the decision by 5 governors in the north for 5 weeks of holidays for the Ramadan fast should be reversed within 72 hours, else they'll go on a protest. The Christian Association of Nigeria in some of those northern states have also spoken against it. I'm still yet to get the name of another organization that said that the right of children to be educated is infringed upon. Okay, now I have the name. The Impactive Center for Accountability, Democracy and Rights. They've criticized the decision by those governors. Well, call me and tell me what you make of this. But specifically, my question is, where do we find the balance between faith and public policy? In this particular case, education and religion. 0817-923-0002. 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp is 080-903-06-416. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can watch, listen, and engage. Please turn off your radio as you call. Justice calls from Omudioga. Good evening, Justice. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening, Sam.
Good evening.
My regards to your guest. I want to join your guest, the Christian Association of Nigeria, and other well-meaning Nigerians, to condemn the actions of some of the northern governors. How can you lock down school for a whole 5 weeks? Did they realize did they even realize the impact of that on the pupils? It's very, very condemnable, and it's a slap to the educational sector in Nigeria. Please, they should rescind that decision. There should be a review on that decision. It's very wrong. It does not encourage education, and it does not anyway add up. Please, not just because NANS threatened to protest, but because it's against the improvement of education in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay, you are locking down school for 5 weeks. If the students go to school, will it stop them from fasting? I don't think it will. And most of that fasting is done in the night. Students can go to school and learn in the daytime. You are shutting down school because of fasting. It's something that can be done after school. It doesn't make sense. I'm against that decision, please.
Okay, Justice. Thank you very much. As much as we know, a large part of the fast happens during the day. Chima calls from Rumokuta. Hello, Chima. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Oracle.
Good evening.
And I also greet your guest at the studio.
Good evening.
I've listened to him vividly, and I enjoyed the whole topic. Because let me rush immediately. Religion generally has taken us up, that we have left the things that we are supposed to do, and we try to see how we can see ourselves divine. Now, we have refused to see how we can do things with men, as in to honor men that we see. I want to honor God that we are not seeing. Now, the idea of now trying to deprive people from getting Western education because of you are trying to fit in religious activity. You can imagine the kind of backwardness that we are in this our own nation. You understand? Because ordinarily, that religion concerning the that one can education is old. I think it's actually they learn it every Friday out of the Islam people. Then they can choose some other days in our activity. They condemn it, and I condemn it in totality. Thank you. My name is Imam from Mokuta.
All right, thank you very much, Chima. As we slowly get to the edition, 817-903 is
Good evening.
What's your name?
Sheriff from Kogi State.
All right, Sheriff, please go ahead.
I don't know. I think religion has done more harm than good both in this country, because I don't really know my brothers in the north side. I don't know how they are doing their religion. When I heard the news this morning, I was what kind of sense is this? How can you stop school for 5 good weeks? How do you expect non-Muslim people that are school in that particular school to be active? At least if you want to do something in favor of Islam, at least do it according to what Islam says, not what you want to do because you have the power, because you are in a state. You think you can do whatever you want, whatever you like. That you are just for me, I just see that you want to tarnish the image of Islam. But that is what I feel, because what you are doing is not peculiar to what Islam preach.
All right, thank you very much. Sotanya calls from Uniport. Oh my, have I lost that call? Okay, Sotanya, if you can, call back. Now, Imam Shaafiee, for the purpose of solution, because many of our conversations are geared towards speaking for development and sustainable solution. How can we create, find, or promote a balance between religion and education in this case. And I'm sure, there are other things that a balance need to be created.
Well, let me surprise you by saying that in the case of Islam, there is no need to create a balance.
How so?
God Almighty has already put the balance there.
Okay.
When he was describing the believers in Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2, he said, as such as we may do a justly balanced nation, a nation of a golden mean. Everything in Islam, the way Allah has structured it, is always considerate. It considers this side and this side and takes the middle course. Unfortunately, something I've been saying and I will continue to say because it hasn't changed. The Muslims are very ignorant about their faith. So they do things that are not in line with their faith, in the name of their faith, and they cause trouble. This one we are talking about now. If they had not declared public holiday, will anybody be talking about say, you are oppressed? If they had not done so, and they are doing so, they were not told to do so. The faith they think they are trying to promote or help, whatever they think they are doing, has not asked them to do so. Instead, you have not brought Islam to the fore again, where people are thinking this Muslim will come again. No, they are denying people education. When Islam started, the first instruction God gave our prophet is what? Iqra, which means read. Islam places a great premium on education, on the pursuit of knowledge. How can a faith that places such a great premium on knowledge ask people to suspend knowledge or the acquisition of it for fasting? It does not. It has not. So they are creating the problem where there's no. That's what there's no need to create any balance. Islam already has the balance in everything it commands. But when the Muslim does, which are looking for, the one that's already there before, you brought the problem, remove the problem.
All right. Good evening, as well.
Good
evening. No, call you ahead.
First of all, commend your guest for being so bold, and he has been speaking the truth. I want to say that these are our politicians. They have just turned the whole thing to be a jamboree, which supported the theory of Karl Marx that says that religion is the opium of the masses. So I want to say that people like you need to continue to stand up with the truth. So I commend him for that.
All right. Thank you very much, Azunda. On it. Okay. And this comment news just broke, so hopefully we'll find out in a matter of moments. Thank you very much, Imam Shaafiee, for making the time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And hopefully if we have other conversations connected to your religion, we'll have you here as a guest. And Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Coming up at 6 is the major news. After that, it's open season. Please stay with us.